Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be installing those Hope Tech 4 V4 brakes on this SURRON because I can't stand these stock SURRON brakes anymore. The power modulation on them is just weird and super inconsistent. Every time I pull the lever, no matter how consistently, I get a different amount of biting force on that rotor. So these things got to go because I don't trust them to learn how to do nose wheelies or stoppies on this bike. So let's get these brakes on super quick and then get this bike out to a place we call the Big Show for some testing. And maybe if we're really, really lucky, we can see my goat friends. Here's the complete Hope Tech 4 V4 setup I'm going to be putting on the bike. I'm going to be using the black and gold Tech 4 levers and the red and black V4 calipers. And I have my Hope bleed kit all ready to go. Now this is the bleed kit for the Hope Tech 4 brakes. You got to make sure that you use that because the reservoir cap will be a little bit more narrow and longer for the Tech 4s. The Tech 3 cap won't fit. And I made this little DIY syringe for pulling the bubbles out of the back end of the system. And I'll show you guys how I do that when I go to bleed it. And the tools that I'm going to be using to install these brakes are a 8mm wrench, a T8, and a 4mm hex. And most importantly, you should always wear gloves when doing brake work because the brake fluid will absolutely destroy your skin. So let's start by removing the front brake. I'll just remove this front lever. And then I'll remove the caliper. And let's remove this brake clip. Let's just put this back here so I don't lose it. Here's the front brake. It was fairly easy to remove, just a few bolts. And now I can replace it with the Hope front brake. The Hope brake already has the line cut to the correct length. The back is going to need a custom hose cut and olive fitting and the copper crush washer, so it's going to be a bit more detailed. So let's get that Hope front brake on and finish the front. I'll leave it loose until I'm ready to do the final adjustment on it. It's probably going to be somewhere around there. Something like that. Ooh, that looks sweet. Then I'm just going to take the brake cable and route it down here through this clip using the T10. I'll run this caliper back behind here and then I'll mount it to the fork. I still need to bleed the brakes before I can line up these pads with the rotors. And I'm going to use this smaller T25 because my T-spinner can't fit. The Tech 4 lever is installed and I run the line down to the front rotor and I have the V4 caliper installed as well, but I have it loose right now because I need to wait until I can top off the reservoirs before I can line up the brake pads on the rotors. So now that the front's done, let's install the rear brake. So here we have the rear stock lever that I'm going to remove, and if you follow the brake line all the way down, there will be a clip underneath here. And then the line runs through the frame. And there's another clip right here. And then the rear caliper. To get this brake lever through the fork and through the rest of the frame and off the bike, I'm going to need to remove this line. But before I do that, I'm going to remove the clips. And also I'm going to remove the caliper off the back. So everything's ready to be pulled off because I don't want to be getting brake fluid everywhere. But I'm going to disconnect this and then maybe wrap some paper towel around that and just make it really tight so I can pull it through and not have hydraulic fluid spilling everywhere. Then I'll use this 3mm hex to remove this brake clip. And just remove this clip. And now I can get the line through the bike. Now with all the line unclipped and the caliper removed, I can detach the line from this brake and then run the line back through the bike and get this brake off. And I'm obviously, I'm wearing gloves because I don't want to get any brake fluid on my hands. Now I'll just set that over here. And let's pull this through. And now we have the rear brake off. So here's the new rear brake that's going on. And I'm going to do the same thing to install it, but in reverse that I did with removing the line. So I'm going to disconnect this and then run this line from the back to the front and up through here, and then I'll reattach this lever and the install will be done. All I have left to do is just fill these and bleed them. And you want to definitely hold the lever like this so all the fluid doesn't come out of the reservoir. And yeah, just set it down so the fluid doesn't come out. I'll take this copper crush washer off for now. I'm just going to get this paper toweled and taped up. Not too much, just enough to get it through. There's a bit of a narrow gap there. Down here so it sticks to the line. It's like right there. There we go. I decided to cut the rear brake hose a little bit shorter because I felt like it was a little bit too long. So here I have all the internal brake parts that make up the fitting. This is the part that attaches to the lever. And then this is the internal fitting with the copper crush washer on one side and the barbs on the other side that go inside the hose. Then we have the olive and then the stainless steel sleeve that goes over the outside of the hose. And all these parts come together to seal the hydraulic line. These can be really hard to get on. You just need to get it open just a little bit to get it to slide down. You want to make sure that it's completely on the outside of the hose. That's really important. Now with the olive on, I can push in this fitting, which goes in right through there. And sometimes I need to use a tool. Sometimes you can just push it in. And then we're just going to take this fitting and make sure that the copper crush washer is right there. Put it all together and then just screw it tight. And I'll put this copper crush washer on this side. And then I'll take this lever and put it back on. And that's it. Now I will tighten this one down on the crush washer and then tighten this brake line down so it pushes the olive fitting into that internal fitting. And this will seal the brake line. I'm just going to clean these brakes with some ISO because they got all covered with hydraulic fluid. Let's bolt this caliper down to the bracket just to make sure that there's no interference at all. Because actually I didn't check it and I'm not 100% sure that it's going to fit, although it probably should. And not too tight, just snug it up a little bit just to make sure I can center it. Oh yeah, it's good, no rubbing. So I just need to attach this brake clip and the brake clip in the front, then I can bleed the brakes. Let's get all these wires tucked up underneath here and out of the way. And clips are all on. And I think these brakes are ready to top off and bleed. After making sure that the levers are completely leveled off, I'm going to remove this reservoir cap and attach the bleed kit. And I'll just reuse these screws for the new Hope bleed kit. Remove that rubber bladder that's inside. Not too tight, just snug it up. It's good enough. With this new top cap installed from the bleed kit, I can attach the cup. And just take that down until it's hand tight. And I'll fill it with some brake fluid. Now I'll go back there and open up that rear bleed valve and use this syringe to pull a suction on the brake line to pull this fluid down all the way through the line and get all the air bubbles out. Before I do any bleeding of the brakes, I'm going to first open up the bite adjustment all the way. And you should always do this before you bleed the brakes. And I'm going to open up this bleed valve. Not too much, just right there. And then you can see already the fluid's coming. Lots of air bubbles. And I'll check up front to make sure that the fluid's going to go down. Yep, starting to go down. Now I've got no more air bubbles coming. So I'm going to tighten this. I emptied the excess from the syringe and I put a little more brake fluid inside my reservoir. And I'm going to do the process again. And keep going until I don't see any air bubbles. I think we got it now. Yeah, there's no more air bubbles. This is good. I'm going to close that off. I worked the system back and forth with my syringe and tried to get out all the air bubbles, and I think it did a pretty good job, so I guess we'll find out now. Put the plug back in the cup and then remove this, and I can get rid of the excess brake fluid that's in here. Just pour it back into the jar. Now I'm going to remove this plate and put the rubber bladder back in and the Hope reservoir cap. I just want to make sure that I've got as much fluid as possible in the system. Now, probably when I tighten these down, there's going to be some overflow of fluid coming out of there. Yep. Not too much. Just snug them down. That's all they need. It's really easy to strip those out if you're not careful. Clean this brake up. That's just where I want it. Just finished cleaning up this brake. Then I can move on to the front. I'll do an adjustment of the brake lever positions on the bike once the brakes are fully filled and bled. Back brake's important. Can really save you from wheelies if you go over the balance point. The brakes are almost completely done. I have the rear finished and the front just needs to be bled and filled just like we did with the rear brake. But I got some bad news for you guys. I had to decommission my Steve mouse mat because I got brake fluid all over it. So I'm super bummed about that. So Steve, if you're watching, please send me another mouse mat. Now let's get back to these brakes. The brake is nice and level from before. Just need to remove the reservoir cap and attach the bleed kit. Remove the top cap and also this bladder. Now let's put the bleed kit on. Not too tight. Screw this cup back on. Now that that's installed, let's pull the plug out and fill it with some brake fluid. Not too much. Now I can go down and open up the bleed valve on the front brake and do the exact same process with this syringe. Open this up and you see the brake oil already flowing. Now I'll start to pull suction on this. Oh yeah, look at all those air bubbles. This brake line's way shorter than the rear, so I don't think it's going to take much. I won't be using it. I'll be putting most of it back. I think we got it. Oh, there's a few. I'll usually pull a full syringe. Maybe just shake it a little bit. Try to get some air bubbles to pop out. There's one. Fluid's getting a little bit low on the cup. I think that's about it. I don't see any more air bubbles. I'm going to be real careful not to get oil on the brake pads. or they'll be contaminated for sure. Put this plug back in the cup and remove it. Most of this brake fluid will just go right back in the can. It's all brand new brake fluid. These brakes are new. Use the T10 and remove this bleed cap. And I'll just dump a little bit of brake fluid in there. Put that bladder back. Now I'm not going to fully tighten them down yet because I want to get a paper towel to catch some of this runoff. Tighten those up. Let's clean up any excess brake fluid. Let's see how that lever feels. Oh, not bad. Almost perfect. Just need to adjust the lever. Get these cleaned up with some ISO. There's a hole here on the side where the brake fluid can get stuck. I think that's pretty good. As a final step, I will just take some paper towel like this and then stick it inside the bleed valve all the way. Kind of move it around and then pull it out. And you can see there's still brake fluid in there. And you don't want that spilling out, probably getting all over the rotors or the pads. So don't forget to do that. Hope Tech 4 brakes are done. I think they look absolutely sick. They really finished the bike off. I adjusted the bite and the reach already on the levers. They feel great. I also adjusted the angle. I can't wait to go ride this thing. I think I'm gonna take it to the big show today. I just need to wait for it to get done charging. Gosh, I wish I had a teleport machine.